the Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. What's up, friends? How are you doing today? You guys know that some of my favorite people in the world to talk to are dental students for a lot of different reasons. I love to hear origin stories. I love to hear stories of overcoming adversity and people that have actually gotten into dental school, which was not easy for me. And I just love the whole attitude of dental students, particularly the ones that reach out to me or show up to our events, because they have this glimmer in their eye and they haven't been beat down by the realities of private practice ownership, and they're still excited about our profession. So I find that energy very intoxicating, and I like to be around it. Today we have a D3 dental student. His name is JD Foltz. And he is at Ohio State University, where he's also earned his finance degree. He hails from Cincinnati, Ohio, and JD enjoys lifting and wrestling in his free time. With a passion for cosmetic dentistry, his ultimate goal is to build a scalable dental business that fulfills all of his passions and all involved. JD is the founder of the Dental Aesthetics Club at OSU and serves as the pre-dental chair for OSU District 6 and is a member of the National Pre-Dental Task Force. He has attended DSI events and practice launchpad events to further his dental career aspirations. And that's how I met you in the first place, buddy. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Yeah, man. I mean, you've been to San Diego, my favorite town.
Yep.
You've been on my boat. Well, my previous boat. I have a different one now.
That one wasn't big enough?
No, actually downsized. I went a little bit newer and a tiny bit smaller, but it's a pretty cool boat. You've been to a Dental Success Summit as well. I always find it refreshing when students prioritize travel, even though I know, it's not, a time where you're making a lot of money or any money at all. In fact, all the money's going out. But
negative money. Yeah,
when people see the opportunity and sees the opportunity to be around, dentists that have accomplished something, and I'm not talking about myself. There's just so many great people that attend dental success events and our black belt coaches, and to be able to rub elbows with them and kind of pick their brain is invaluable as far as I'm concerned. And I didn't have the opportunity, and there wasn't a whole lot of this sort of thing when I was going to dental school, so I always try to encourage dental students to come to any of our events. If you can't afford it, you want a free ticket, all you got to do is message me on Instagram. I'm a sucker, and I basically I give scholarships to pretty much any dental student that's interested in being at our events. But JD, man, how you doing? D3 year clinic is starting to heat up for you. You're starting to see real patients and not just the inside of a textbook. D3 year, I have to say, was a turning point for me when I was like, oh my God, I'm just not an academic type person. No matter how hard I try, it's like, B minus kind of grades for me always. But it got me a degree and it got me into clinic. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, yes, this is a great profession. I get to work with people. I get to work with my hands. And that's when things opened up for me. How's D3 year been for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I think it's pretty much across the board that everyone would agree. We came to dental school to see patients. Mm-hmm. And at most schools, D3 year is when you really start seeing more patients, or your first patients, right? Mm-hmm. I know some schools do a little bit before that, but that's when you start seeing the bulk of patients. Yeah. And it's really just what you're there to do, right? You start to be able to apply the things that you've learned, and you start to be able to have an impact. One of my first patients, actually, one of my best friends in the whole world, I've known him since kindergarten. We're still friends to this day, best friends. And, he was one of my first patients that came in, and he had a little bit of wear on his anteriors. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do just a little bit of composite buildup. And I mean, if I'm being honest, not the best work in the world, right? I'm still learning, but
Hmm.
to him, right, night and day, like he's over the moon about it. And I feel like that's what we all came to do. And being able to do that right out of the gun was awesome for me.
Hmm.
And I'm just looking to have more of an impact like that on patients going forward, because that's what you're addicted to, right? That's
Hmm.
why you're there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my experience with D3 so far.
That's awesome. That's a great first experience. So tell me about, your origin story. What got you interested in dentistry in the first place? For you guys that can't see JD, he's a big dude, very athletic looking guy. I know that you have a history in athletics, but like what got you interested in dentistry in the first place?
Nah, well, Mark, first of all, I'm just trying to look like you, man.
Stop.
I'm sure everyone's seen this guy's arms, but I appreciate the compliments, man. I think for me, growing up, I don't have any family in dentistry. I know that's a common one.
Hmm.
So no
Yeah.
family, no extended family.
Okay.
Growing up, I was always kind of an artsy guy.
Hmm.
I've done a lot. I'm even, I'm working on a drawing right now for my grandfather. So I've always liked working with my hands and kind of being artistic in that capacity. I was always kind of one of those kids that did well in school.
Hmm.
And, dentistry, we've all heard it before. Nothing new there, kind of blends the science and the art together.
Hmm.
And I think more than that, that was kind of the logical reason why it made sense. But for me, it's a lot more personal. I've had all kinds of dental work done. I've had teeth knocked out that ended up, being saved with root canals, braces, surgeries. I've been to just about every specialist under the sun. And I think that when I was in those moments of need, being able to go to that person and have them there for me, that feeling, I didn't know what it felt like to need that until I was in that moment myself.
Hmm.
And I think I really just want to be able to pay that forward to people. I think one of the biggest aha moments was when I was playing water polo back in high school. I
Hmm.
got some teeth knocked out.
Mm.
And I was actually thinking about this today because I knew you were going to ask me about this question. And I was never worried about my teeth.
Mm.
And it sounds weird, but looking back, thinking back, I don't ever really remember a moment of panic because I was like, I've got my people and I knew that they were going to take care of me. And I think that's pretty cool. And if you can be that to someone else, there aren't a lot of professions where you can do as well financially as a lot of dentists do,
Hmm.
if it's done right,
Yeah.
and be able to go home at night and know that I helped someone and there was nothing in it for me. And even though I had a gain personally, it's a genuine help to someone else. So I think that was what really attracted me initially to dentistry. My mom always told me I should be an orthodontist. She wanted me to be an orthodontist. So we're not taking that route, but close enough for mom, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So, all right. How has been your dental school experience so far? Like, how many people are in your class? And
Yeah.
I don't want you to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but how's the experience been?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, the Ohio State University, Mark. I'm sorry to all the listeners. I just had to correct him. So we got 120 in our class, which is pretty large.
That's big.
The only class size that I've heard bigger than that is NYU, but Ohio State has a pretty big class size. Not surprising being as big a university as it is.
Hmm.
Um, I think my highlight of dental school for sure has been just the other dental students. I think we have a really good student culture. Everyone wants everyone else to win. Um, we share notes. Everybody's helping everyone out at any possible moment. So I think being in that collective group of seeing everyone want to succeed is what dentistry needs more of. And I think from my understanding, it used to not be so much that way,
Hmm.
but just as things have evolved, I mean, just like what you're doing with dental success, it's just people are starting to understand that other people can win and it doesn't have to be a competition with a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of that at Ohio State, and I've been, enjoying that tremendously and just great people, right? Overall, I mean, I just got through those first 2 years of the didactic stuff. A's and B's for me. You know, it's tough sometimes because I know guys like you that have kind of shown me what's on the other side, and it's hard to really buckle down on, oh, I have to get an A+ in general anatomy when I'm learning about the GI system, right? When I'm having a conversation with you, or I'm at Dental Success, whatever, and I'm learning about all these other things that I know are going to be so much more important. So for me, it was always kind of hard to focus on those things. I mean, I got through it,
Mhm.
and I tried to make it a priority to really understand the material more than just
Memorize
get
and
the A's.
regurgitate. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this is not shade to anyone. I, I think that there are a lot of students that might even be at the top of the class that got a higher grade, but may not understand as much as some of the students that might have a more mid-level grade. And I don't know, maybe that's just me coping with the fact that I got a B in that class, but
Yeah.
I think that's pretty true, and I think you would agree that there's a difference between understanding and knowing material and being able to understand what's important, right? Versus some of the classes that maybe aren't as important in the long run, and trying to get those grades versus really understanding what's going on and knowing what's going to be important in the future, and prioritizing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been my experience with school. I mean, our faculty, we've got some of the new ones that are full of energy and really excited to be there. And then a lot of them honestly are kind of the older dentist that's kind of been beaten down over the years. And it's all the stuff you talk about where it's you're gonna do this for the rest of your life. It's gonna look like this. This is how much money you're gonna make. I mean, if I told them that I know people that make seven figures through dentistry, they would almost immediately probably say, well, they're doing something wrong. They're taking advantage of someone, right? And that's just how they grew up. And we both know that's not the case, but it's also rare that does happen. So I understand where they're coming from. And dentistry can be great in a lot of different ways, but I've never subscribed to the traditional dental school mindset. So,
Yeah.
but that's again all because of the stuff you guys are able to teach us. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate the props. I'm interested in a class your size. Do you find it difficult to find people that are interested in aspects of dentistry outside of the typical clinical and academic stuff? People that are interested in business and potentially multiple practice ownership, or being a business person inside the profession of dentistry. Is that hard to find in a class your size or at your school?
So I got kind of two answers to that. I would say definitely not hard to find people who are interested in it. I think there's definitely a narrative right now that you'll hear a lot of students say, oh, I know I got to learn the business of dentistry and I want to own multiple practices so I can make money when I'm not there.
Mhm.
I don't think that's an uncommon thing to be said right now. It's not the whole class, but there are definitely people that say that. Um, so finding that isn't hard, but what I have found is challenging is to get people who really understand what that means and actually mean it. It's
Mhm.
kind of a want versus a need thing.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
I've done groups where we've had like masterminds where I tried to set up a weekly or bi-weekly kind of meeting where we would listen to podcasts, and we kind of listen on our own time, then we'd sit down, dissect them, go through that. Um, and I've been able to find people to do that, but it's really hard to get people to stick to that. And I think it's very rare to find someone who truly, in my opinion, understands what it takes to do what you do.
Mm.
It's not just I want to have three practices and I'm going to take some class on marketing, right? It's so much more than that. So I think there is a narrative, and I think there's just a gap of understanding between what it really takes to do it and just wanting to do it.
Sure.
So I guess that's kind of my best answer for that.
That's really good. I really like that. There is a difference between interest and commitment, right? And you've shown commitment because you are, I mean, you've flown across the country really to gain a deeper understanding of what it is that it means to be a business person inside of dentistry. And, listening to a couple podcasts and maybe a book or two, is going to only get you so far. But yeah, kudos to you for, making those sacrifices. I can't even tell you, man, like, I wish there were podcasts when I was in dental school. I mean, just the number of hours that I spent in preclinical lab waxing things up and setting denture teeth. And like, I could have learned so much with the resources that you guys have at your fingertips. And it really, really bums me out. It actually frustrates me when so few dental students, for instance, in a class had ever heard of a dental podcast or, don't even know that there is, a whole segment of the profession that focuses on teaching people this stuff. Because it's so important, man, especially the stakes are really high for you guys. The student loan debt is crazy. $200,000 to $300,000 is average nowadays. Yeah, I mean, and the marketplace is becoming more and more competitive with more dental schools popping up. People are retiring later, so holding on to their practices later. Consolidation wave is here, so there's going to be less private practice opportunities for dentists in the future. So, I don't think that you can get enough information. The more information that you can get, the more equipped you're going to be to handle this really, really challenging environment that you guys are getting released out into.
Yeah, 100%. I agree 100%. And I've had that exact conversation with a lot of dentists when I've gone to either your events or I've been to some other summits as well. And every single time that I go, whenever I'm talking to a dentist, they say one thing about me, and it's never been that, you're so smart or I like you so much or whatever. It's, wow, you're so young and I can't believe you're here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, and what I tell them is this didn't exist for you. Like they're so impressed by it, but it really shouldn't be that impressive in my opinion. All I do is listen to a podcast and spend what? I mean, you pay for you let me go for free for the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed at my friend's house. It cost me like $300 to go maybe for the flight. That's not, I'm going to be $350,000 in debt by the time I graduate. What's the $300? What's that in the bucket? So to me, it's not that impressive. And like you said, this didn't exist before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there would have been a lot more docs that were taking advantage of it if these podcasts existed and, if these types of events existed. And I think it'll just take some time to get traction, but I don't know, I'm starting to see more dental students getting involved. Maybe you're not, but I think it's more than it was before. I mean, my first conference I went to was actually a senior year of undergrad, and I was the only dental student there. And since I've gone to others over the last about 4 or 5 years, I've at least started to see some, right? It's not a ton, but it's more than just me.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we're going in the right direction. I mean, I brought some of my classmates too, like Victor and Mark. Shout out Victor and Mark. They'll probably listen to this.
Yeah.
They've come to these events with me, and we met some of the UNLV guys. I think there were some other dental students that I might not have met. But I mean, you're doing your part, and I just think it's awesome. I think you're doing everything you can. You can't lead a horse to water with it. The people that get it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to commit to it too. It's hard to understand that it's worth it. And if there are any dental students listening or even pre-dental students, I went to conferences as a pre-dent technically, that senior year, it's worth it. I mean, it's worth every penny because when you're a student, that money goes so much further than it will when you're a doc. Because once you're the doctor, and you guys are great, it's a super welcoming environment. So I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but like now you're just one of the docs. But to the students out there, people want to get to know you just because of your age. Show up, literally show up, and you are automatically the top 1%. So, Mark's a super nice guy. Say hi. He will make time to say hello to you. Like he wants to meet you. all these people, they want to meet you, right? Like I know he's got the super professional setup and everything, and he's the big podcast guy. And I'm sorry if people start coming up to me on the streets now, Mark, but he's a super nice guy. Just go say hi. They want to meet you. That's what they're there for. So I don't know, take the jump. I don't even know where I'm going with that anymore, but
I
I think
appreciate
I've
that.
made my rant for that.
No, I agree. I appreciate that sentiment. So what does it look like for you beyond dental school? What is your vision for what your career looks like? So few people, I think, look beyond, boards or beyond D3 year, except for, I can't wait for D4 year because it's going to be one more year until I'm done with school and I'm making some money. But do you have a grand plan, a grand vision of what you want your career to look like?
Yeah, for sure. I think, I've obviously had the advantage to been thinking about this for years, right? This isn't a new concept to me. And this is one of the things that I even tell as the pre-dental chair. I work with a lot of pre-dental students trying to go to dental school.
Mhm.
And what I try and impress on them is we work to get to dental school, right? But I think it's always important to remember it's not just about getting into dental school, and it's not just about passing dental school. You always have to remember why you're there. It's to be a dentist.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of people get caught up in the moment. So I've been thinking about this for a while, but I think for me, my goal is to build a practice that I am not the center of it. That's really what it comes down to. I want to build a practice where um, it's able to support itself without me having to be head leader, whatever guy that everything revolves around me. It's about the people that are there and that we can develop leaders within. And I think that if you're able to create an organization where the leadership is at all levels, right? I think that's when you really start to see those wins. And if I could create an organization where my success, my personal success is predicated on others' ability to succeed, I think that would really be the ultimate win for me, where it's, hey, this doc just made $600,000 this year. That's awesome. Like I was able to help them get there, and maybe they couldn't without me, or maybe it would have taken longer or whatever. And they were able to have a life that they wanted, and maybe their partners, maybe their associates. I think that's the ultimate win. And I think that's what you're doing with, your DSO that you're working on,
Mhm.
the podcast, the summit. That I just see time and time again, the people who succeed, they kind of hit this point of personal success, and then they transition to the only way I can succeed is others. And I feel like I've started to realize that's kind of the ultimate success. So that's what I'm working towards. And, I still got to pass boards. So
That's great. I mean, that's an incredible vision. And it is true. There is a point where, we have our four futures: mind, meeting, muscle, and money. So, your ability to handle stress, and there will be stress, the ability to control your emotions and control your self-talk, to make sure that you have a strong mindset. That's mind. Meaning is making sure that you, although you're working really hard, that you maintain enough priority in your personal and professional relationships to cultivate, strong personal and professional relationships. That's meaning. Muscle, you guys, you can tell that JD lifts and he works out. There is no greater wealth than health. So muscle, and then money. Everybody kind of hangs, or many people kind of hang their success or lack of success on the amount of zeros and commas in their bank account, which I think is important to a certain degree. You have to have financial stability in order to get anything accomplished at a high level, but that's clearly not the only thing. But above all of that is being able to leave a legacy and having your success dependent on the success of other people, like you said, is so important. And I've spent the second half of my career trying to figure out a way to structure my business in that I am more successful the more people that I make successful. And that's what Dental Success Institute is all about. That's what the mastermind group is all about. That's what the whole, belt system, black belts, that I surround myself with, these very high level operators that are doing great, leveraging their brain power and their ability to help more people, and just kind of being the organizer on top, and the person that kind of recognizes talent and cultivates that talent and points it in the right direction. That's what I've spent a greater part of my second half of my career doing. And so there's a lot of wisdom to what you're saying. So are you saying that you would like to be in an environment where you own multiple practices, or an environment where there's multiple providers in one place? What specifically does that look like to you?
I think it's, I think you can have both. I think I would like to see practices maybe where there's more than one doc, ideally. I think it makes for a better environment. The practices that I've visited, all the single doc locations that I have visited, there's a very different energy there than at multi-doc locations. So if I could have, I guess this is a catch-all, but multi-doc locations, that would be kind of the ultimate win for me. And I mean, Dr. Spodak, right? He's got the castle, the 15,000 square foot place. I'm not saying every office needs to look like that per se, but I also don't want my docs to feel lonely, right? And I think that when I'm there at single doc locations, it's a lot harder to build that teamwork, right? I like to think of dental offices as more of teams than an employer and staff. I think when you get that, it's a you versus me kind of situation sometimes, versus, hey, we're all on the same team. Yeah, we got different roles on this team. Maybe one guy's team captain, but like we're all team working together. And I think you get a lot more of that in a multi-doc location, where doc can go talk to other doc because they understand what's going on. An assistant, maybe when they're working with doc A, maybe they got to complain about doc A a little bit. Maybe he did something. She needs to talk to someone who will understand, he or she, sorry. They can go talk to an assistant that never works with that doc, and they can have a new, fresh perspective, right? So you don't get that really at a single doc location. So that would be, and again, that's building the fulfillment for them. That has nothing to do with me, right? So that would kind of be, in a perfect world, that's really what it would look like for me. I think that's the best way that dentistry can be done. But we'll see, man. I mean, I'm probably skipping a few steps. I'm talking about what you're doing 30 years down the line, right? Or 20 years, or however much experience you have in dentistry. So, and I will say too, I'm in a very blessed position to be able to even think like this, just because I know that you had to go through whatever 10, 15 years of not doing it the way that you're doing it now, just for me to hear that from you. And I feel like I'm able to skip through all of that. And I'm going to learn on my own.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the mistakes that you make, because no matter how many times I hear you say it, do it this way, do it that way, I'm going to mess up on some of these things, and I'm going to have to learn it myself. But it's going to be a much shorter runway, I hope, just because I've been able to hear it so many times and see it done. So, if anyone's listening, they're like, oh my God, he's 25 and he's thinking like Costas. It's just because I'm regurgitating what he says, right? I don't even know if these are my opinions anymore. I'm literally just repeating like an amalgamation of podcasts and summits that I've been to. I don't even know if I have an original thought in my head.
Yeah.
But whatever, stand on the shoulders of giants. Why not? I owe it to you guys. You're putting in the time and effort to make this information available to us. So I think I'd be letting you guys down if I wasn't, doing it this way. So
yeah,
I guess that's the way practicing looks to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's a great vision. And you're totally right. The whole idea behind coaching and mentors and content consumption is collapsing time. It's being able to pass over some of the hard lessons that I learned in the trenches, right? Why repeat it? Like if there's a path around it or through it instead of experiencing it, then you should by all means take advantage of that advice. There's a lot of wisdom to that. So I'm going to turn the tables and let you ask me any questions you might have. I mean, you and I have shared cocktails and We've been in different cities together, and we've done a lot of, philosophizing over cocktails. But is there anything that is left kind of as a mystery to you, or anything that you need any kind of a clarification on?
I got a few prepared. I'm trying to think which one. I'm curious right now.
Mhm.
I've listened to some of the recent pods with what you're doing with Smile Outreach, right?
Smile Outreach
And
International.
I know
Yeah.
you're working on the DSO. I know
Mhm.
you just got so many things going on. I'm kind of curious, what is the end goal for Mark Costas?
Mm.
What are you working towards? Is there an end goal? Is it the process? Like,
Yeah, that's an awesome question. A very well thought out question, because a lot of times, in my trajectory, I had no idea what the end goal was, but I am more clear at this stage of my career about where I want to go than I ever have been. Right. So I'm an opportunist, and I see things from a different perspective than a lot of people, because it took me, 3 years and 21 tries to get into dental school. So I never took my degree for granted. And I don't think I ever took dentistry as a profession for granted, because it was so hard for me to get in. And that 3 years in between undergrad and when I got into dental school was not easy. It was very instrumental in that, I got into the executive MBA program and I owned my first business, but it also showed me that the vast majority of the world does not have the benefits that dentistry has, right? We have very flexible schedules. I mean, a full-time dentist right now, nowadays, would consider themselves a 3.5 to 4 day a week person. Working 28 to 32 hours is considered full-time for dentistry. So that is, in
yeah,
and of itself, that is unbelievable in comparison to, other professions, even physicians, where their average work week is 50 to 60 hours. And even though they make slightly more money per capita, physicians versus dentists, if you take into account the fact that the vast majority of them are W-2 employees, so they're getting taxed at the highest tax rate, that's one big thing. 74% of dentists own their own dental practice, so they have the benefit of tax write-offs and business ownership that is more tax favorable than W-2 employees, much, much more. And if you break down per hour income, we kill physicians. We crush them at per hour compensation. So we're ahead there. And I'm just comparing us because there's always a side-by-side comparison with medicine and dental. So we have,
that's an easy one.
it is, we have a very, very unique and very advantageous profession that we've selected. We're very, very lucky that we've selected this profession. So, I've been very, very lucky in that I saw the opportunity to be able to create a coaching group and a curriculum, for lack of a better word, for that encompassed all of the mistakes that I made and that had turned into valuable lessons that I could pass on to other people. And, that turned into a podcast, which turned into a lot of speaking engagements, which turned into a very vibrant coaching and consultancy. So that was very opportunistic of me to see those opportunities and kind of take advantage of them. So that's grown to become one of the largest and fastest growing consultancies in dentistry. So very blessed as far as that goes. And that led to the Dental Success Network, which has a lower barrier of entry and a lot more dentists involved there. 1,500 licensed dentists from all 50 states and several other countries. So that footprint is continuing to grow as well. So I saw this kind of new opportunity that, all right, I have the attention of some people, people all over the world listening to the podcast, which are coming to live events, which are turning into actual customers of the Dental Success universe. And, if I'm looking at strictly just trying to enrich myself and getting more and more clients and more members to DSN, to me, that's just a hollow goal. But if I could open up my mind a little bit, which I decided to do, and said, how can I make this more valuable to the overall world, right? So that turned into Smile Outreach International, which is the ability for me to leverage, this platform to get people to volunteer and donate money to do good works all over the world. We went to 3 amazing places last year. We went to Tanzania, the Dominican Republic, and we just got back from Fiji. Next year, it's going to be Nicaragua, probably Samoa or Tonga, Southeast Asia somewhere, Mexico, and Honduras. So we're going to grow every single year, just like we're growing as a business. We're going to grow as a charitable foundation. And that is a huge part of my next chapter and what I want to focus on, utilizing this platform for not just personal enrichment, but to actually alleviate pain, suffering, infection, et cetera, throughout the world. So that's a big part of it. And when you were asking about the DSO, I had this opportunity to be able to look behind the curtain of so many incredible operators and some people that were great operators before I ever met them. And I'd like to think that they're even better operators now, more, larger in
At
size.
least not worse.
Yeah, at least not worse. Larger in size, more profitable, more days off of chairside clinical dentistry, if that's what they choose to do. And so, we have this really unique pipeline and this opportunity to give next steps and next stage and next chapter potentially to a lot of people. Because of our platform, we've gotten the attention of a lot of investors, venture capital, private equity, other DSOs that want to invest in this incredible bank of practices that we have. So we've assembled some of the best ones. I think that we're going to create a bona fide DSO and do it the right way. All the people that are going to participate in the DSO have to go through the Dental Success universe. They have to share our philosophies. They have to be coachable. We're not going to duct tape a bunch of average practices together. These are going to be elite level practices that don't need a lot of hand holding and don't need a lot of guidance because they're already there. So it's a different type of DSO. It might be a slower growing DSO because we're going to be very particular about the practices that we add to it. But the bottom line is, if you put a bunch of good practices together, those practices all become more valuable because of the affiliation to one another and because of the collective EBITDA. So if you could go out and be the largest private practice in the United States, if you joined forces with the right DSO or the right other good dental practices under, a unified platform, you're going to be more valuable than if you went in by yourself. So that's the whole philosophy of joining forces and creating our own unique type of DSO. So that's the DSO answer, and that's the Smile Outreach answer. Very long-winded answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you do all that. I know it's your life and it's your everyday, and people are probably used to hearing you talk about it. But Mark, I think I've told you this before. I was just so impressed, especially when I went to the DSS, the summit, just really seeing everything you're doing. It's wild, man. Like, there are a lot of great operators out there and there are a lot of great coaches. And I mean, I would even argue that there are people who might do some things better than you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean that with
lots
all
of
due
people.
respect, right?
Oh, lots of people. Yeah.
But I have yet to meet anyone doing it at the scale that you are across all the different areas. I mean, even you've got this assisting, right? Isn't there a school that you're running too? You guys have like a dental assistant school that you run, and maybe even, do you do anything with hygiene?
Oh yeah. I mean, we have other continuing education events and courses that we offer to the world. Colorado Surgical Institute is another big part of my next chapter, which is growing like crazy. That one, that's because I have great partners, co-founders, Dan Brisky and Taher Dune. They're some of the best surgeons that I've ever bumped into ever. They're world-class surgeons, and Colorado has grants temporary licenses. So we have a large practice in Dr. Dune's practice, which is a 18 operatory practice in Greeley, Colorado. It's 12,000 square feet. We have a huge lecture hall in the basement. We just had our last meeting last weekend, and the lecture hall fits 65 people, and we had 100 people crammed into that. It was the biggest one that we've had. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we're turning out arches, teaching people how to do IV sedation, wisdom teeth extractions, single implants, full arches, digital workflow, all of that stuff. So that's just another offshoot of, what we've been able to do with our platform. So Yeah, a lot of cool things. I forgot to even mention that one, but yeah, that's a large business and it's growing.
That's the thing. Like you are doing so much that you can't even remember all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm not trying to butter you up or anything. I'm just speaking like from off the top of my head. It's just I haven't met anyone else that's doing it like that. So I mean, it's massively impressive. And if my unique take of the day is it's really cool to see what you're doing, and that's all you get from me, get some perspective. Not everyone's doing that. And I know you go home and it's just what you do every day, but it's really impressive to see, honestly. And I'm really thankful that you give me the time of the day because I know you're doing a lot. So it means a lot for sure.
Oh yeah, brother. I still want to go to an Ohio State football game at some point. It's been a dream of mine forever. Forever I've wanted to do that.
We're working on it. I mean, Brittany, she's not gonna be happy about it, but she'll help me out, we'll get it done.
Brittany's the best. I don't know if
she's gonna be allowed to come because she's gonna be wearing blue and I'm not gonna be too happy.
She's
about
a Michigan
that.
gal.
Send her back and home.
She is a Michigan gal.
Yeah,
you sent me you sent me that Ohio State tumbler, that coffee cup, and somehow it ended up in the back of like the cabinet. And I was like, where is that thing? And she hid it. She hid it from me so I wouldn't be drinking out of it in front of her.
Well, okay. So the story for anyone listening, Mark's assistant, she's a big Michigan fan. And so obviously going to Ohio State, we're rivals. And after we went to our San Diego trip, me and the other guys that went, we just sent Mark a little thank you gift. We gave him a little Ohio State tumbler coffee mug. And Brittany got a hold of it, and I'm pretty sure she put it in the bathroom. I'm pretty sure she sent me a picture of like, here's the present. It was like a toiletry holder in the bathroom of some random back room office space. And I'm like, all right.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Interesting. But no, she's great. And she actually took me backstage at DSS and I was able to meet your family. By the way, your wife is just like the nicest lady, man.
Oh, thank you.
She is so sweet.
I appreciate that.
I mean, I was just a complete stranger, but she was happy to meet me too. So
yeah,
you're just winning across the board, man. Do you mind if I ask you another question? Though?
No, we got time. We got time, buddy. Yeah, sure.
So I'm curious. Another thing is, I'm buttering you up for all the stuff you're doing. What's something that you're struggling with? And if you don't want to get too personal, I get it. But whether it's the most personal thing you can think of or just anything that I think would be, it would be cool to hear kind of what you're working on at this stage of your career and success to see, just like give us some perspective on what Mark Costa struggles with.
Yeah, I've always struggled with allowing myself to say no to certain things, right? My number one gift in the beginning of my career was my ability to work through anything, work 100-hour weeks, get 2 hours of sleep and still work out and, be able to run 10 practices without regional managers. That was my formula in the beginning. Clearly not sustainable from a health perspective, but also not a great idea to structure your life like that from your personal relationships and a business perspective as well. It's not sustainable, but that's all I had. I had more time than money and I had more hustle than intelligence. So that's what I leaned on. That's what I leaned on for a good part of my career. I still have a very difficult time saying no, right? So like you, for instance, wanted me to come out and speak to your school. I've spoken at more than half of the dental schools, and I would just bend myself in a pretzel to get to schools. And sometimes I'd speak to 3 of them a week in 3 different states. And, I wanted to give back and I wanted to meet students, and I love like talking about the stuff that I love to talk about. But I have a difficult time saying no, even if there is a significant personal cost as far as financial or energy wise or personal relationships that are suffering because I'm never home. So that is something that I've always struggled with. Getting better. I do have to say, without being douchey. How does that look?
Like, how do you go about improving that? Is it just mindfulness of being aware that you have that tendency and kind of catching yourself in it? Or do you have like a coach? Do you have a routine that helps with that? How does that improve for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've never been afraid of having mentors and coaches. I always have advisors around me. I have a personal board of directors that is kind of always trying to keep me in line. When I overcommit myself, that's the first thing that they help me to recognize. So yeah, I mean, without being overly douchey, I have an airplane, so that gets me where I need to go, and gets me back. For instance, I was just at Colorado Surgical Institute, and I needed to do a little bit of speaking on Thursday morning. I did my talk, and Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon, I flew in early Thursday and left later on that Thursday because I was able to fly in and out of my own private airport in my airplane. And I got home for my son's football game that night. I could have gone back. The original plan was to fly in, watch his football game, and fly back out to Colorado Surgical for 2 more days. But then I had a wedding that I had to be at. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to overcommit myself. I'm going to schedule my non-negotiables, things that are really important from a personal perspective, prioritize some of the business stuff so I'm not getting sucked into too much busy work, low value activities, and then everything else can kind of get scheduled around that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of a follow-up with that. Do you wish that you had been like this earlier, or do you think this is a byproduct of you evolving and your situation changing? Like, because looking back, I don't know if you regret hustling. I don't, you know what I mean? Would you go back? Would you do it different? Would you want to say no more?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that would be more sustainable, or do you feel like there's been an inflection point where it made sense for you then in that circumstance, and now you're just in a new situation where you got to pivot?
That's an awesome question. And I try not to look back with regret because it's not productive, right? Like if I could go back, there's certainly things that I would have done differently if I could have, but most of the fundamental things like, buying a shitty 3 operatory practice in the middle of nowhere, like, yeah, if I could go back and save that $250,000, then I would. However, it's probably been more than a $250,000 bonus in my overall kind of knowledge level and life lessons, business lessons that I learned from that. So I don't really go back and look at things like, hey, I regret this, or I should have done that, or shouldn't have done that, because where I am right now is a collection of the good choices and the bad choices, the failures and the challenges. All of that stuff is an amalgamation of what I am now. And I wouldn't be the person I am now, and I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't experience all of those tough times and make those bad decisions when I made them. So that is just the most politically correct way of saying I can't change it. So I'm not gonna torture myself over any regrets or what ifs,
Yeah. I guess in that case, even if you don't, I know you can't look back and regret it. Do you think you would give the same advice to me to be the way you are now at my age and in my position? Should I say no less?
That's a great question as well. See, I believe that
I'm full of them.
Yeah.
I'm full of them.
I believe that you go through seasons in your life and in your career, right? The season of my career, the hustle season, was 80 to 100-hour work weeks, living off fast food and black coffee, getting no sleep. That was a season, and it served its purpose for me. What I think is interesting is when students or young docs will come up to me and go, I want to be where you are someday. But really, I want to do it with making sure that I never work more than 4 days a week, making sure that I'm never home after 6 o'clock at night, making sure that, I put my spouse and my children always first as far as my scheduling goes. Hey man, those are all really great things separately, but sometimes in a certain season, you have to take your spouse aside and say, hey, look, I have this big project. If you can give me a little bit of grace for the next three months, I'm going to work my face off for the next 3 months. All I need for you is to let me know if this is too much for you. Let's agree on it now. Here are the sacrifices that I have to make. After this 3-month period of time, I commit to XYZ. Is that okay with you? If you have those types of conversations with the people that are around you and supporting you, it's going to go a long way. But what I'm trying to say is when people say, I want to be where you are by your age, and here are the things that I'm not willing to do, I don't know if they would be able to make it. Well, not in that time frame anyway, because there's certain sacrifices.
You in 80 years.
Yeah, there's certain sacrifices that you have to make. You can't have it both ways. As far as not putting yourself in an uncomfortable, almost exhausting position at some points in order to get ahead. It's a simple fact. But you have to have the self-awareness to say, like I did about halfway through my career, all right, working 100-hour weeks is no longer serving me for the following reasons. I'm going to transition to a more reasonable schedule. And here, now that I've gotten to this point, I now have the financial resources to hire an executive assistant, to assemble, a leadership team, to hire 3 regional managers. So I don't have to do all this stuff anymore, but you have to earn that position.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, you're 100% right. I don't even know why I'm saying anything. I got nothing to add to that, man. You nailed it.
Well, thanks, man. It's been great talking to you, JD. Let's if it's not this season, let's figure out a way to get me to an Ohio State football game next season. I'd love to come and see that stadium. Looks pretty amazing on TV.
The shoe, nothing like it, man.
Yeah, my son goes to San Diego State, which is more football than I had at UC San Diego, but it's not real football. I'm sorry, Aztec fans.
I didn't say that. Well, I mean, to be fair, anyone from the SEC listening thinks Big Ten football isn't football anyway. So we'll see in the postseason. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, Bama looks good.
Yeah,
so
man.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And Texas too. They're in the SEC now. I mean, they got Quinn Ewers and a Manning over there running around. So
yeah, Manning he might be the best Manning.
I know it's crazy.
Including his granddad.
I'm not jealous of our football team who they got to compete against this year, but
yeah,
we're looking good, man.
Yeah. Well, buddy, I really appreciate your time. Go on back to clinic, and we will hopefully talk to you soon in person. Of course, you are invited to the summit this year in June. I'll get you the dates as soon as possible. You probably saw them on Instagram already, but save the date and you'll get those tickets if you still want to come.
If this podcast experience was all right, if you didn't ruin it.
No, it's all good, dude. You did great. You did awesome. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, JD Foltz.